Welcome back to Making Money Matter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Kerry Stevenson, and today I've asked Luke Reinehr. He is the CEO and chairman of Kalamazoo Resources. But we're not going to really talk a lot about Kalamazoo. Well, we kind of are. We're going to talk about Kali, K-A-L-I, Kali Metals. This is the lithium spin-off. It's getting a lot of attention. I wanted to go through this today to give you, our audience out there, a better understanding of the strategy behind this, but also if you're a shareholder of Kalamazoo, how does it benefit you? What's the process? What's the benefit? And so I've asked Luke to come on and explain all of that. Luke, great to see you. Welcome to Making Money Matter.
Oh, hi, Kerry, and thanks for having us.
Well, the Kalamazoo story was very much a gold story and a lithium story, but you've decided to spin off the lithium assets into Kali Metals. So I want to unpack that today and understand the strategy behind it and exactly what it is you've got. What's the interest and why you're so pumped up about this?
Yeah, of course, Kerry. And look, I guess these things creep up on us, but this is probably 12 or 18 months in the making.
Wow.
Kali Metals. And how it started is that you might recall Kalamazoo is a gold company, but we've also had some gold assets up in the Pilbara. And over 2 years ago now, we started looking at these projects near Doms Hill and Marble Bar for lithium. And we were approached, it was at Diggers and Dealers, 2.5 years ago now, or just over 2 years, by SQM, the large Chilean lithium company. And so SQM, very impressed with our projects, and we entered into a farming or a JV with them, whereby SQM is earning up to 70% by spending $12 million over, I think, 4 years. And that's been a terrific relationship for us. It was SQM's first exploration project here in this country. They've expanded that significantly now into other companies such as Azure and others, Dart Mining. So it's been a great relationship. But I guess probably about 18 months ago, so probably Christmas time, 2 years ago, we started wondering whether, because we're getting asked this question a lot, are we a gold company or a lithium company? And we started thinking, well, look, maybe we should consider at some stage spinning out our lithium assets into a separate vehicle. And so we started looking at that, I guess, very strongly, probably middle of last year. So probably around about October, November. And as we were doing this, we were actually contacted by a Canadian company called Karora Resources, which is listed on the TSX. Karora actually is quite a significant gold producer here in Australia. It has the Higginsville gold project, which includes Beta Hunt, just south of Kalgoorlie. And they're producing about 170,000 ounces of gold a year. And we'd met with Karora and their managing director at that stage, a guy called Graham Sloan, and we started considering whether, Graham was actually interested to know, what should they do with some of their ground, which was surrounded by a number of lithium projects and mines south of Kalgoorlie. And so the more we talked about it together, we thought, well, look, why don't we look at combining Kalamazoo's ground, which was not only up in the Pilbara, but also in the Lachlan Fold Belt over on Eastern Australia, with Karora's gold ground south of Kalgoorlie, and put it into a new vehicle. And so we started exploring that, and then pretty much at the end of last year, we said, well, look, let's proceed along those lines. So we formed a relationship with Karora, and we decided to vend in all these lithium assets into a new company called Kali Metals. Kali Metals at that stage was a wholly owned Kalamazoo subsidiary. So the idea was, let's put it all into Kali and IPO that on the ASX, raise some money and give it its own life. And part of the reason being is we thought, well, look, the sum of the parts were worth more than the whole of the sum, that we'd get better value out of these lithium assets. But also, importantly, it was very clear that this was a very large landholding package of just less than 4,000 square k's. So we appreciated that it needed its own team as well, its own exploration team, finance board as well. So it made a lot of sense to actually then look to spin that out. So that was the decision we took earlier on this year. But like most things, Kerry, we thought it would happen fairly quickly, that it'd take us 3 or 4 months, wouldn't cost us much money. But of course, it's taken twice as long and it's cost us twice as much. And part of that reason, and I might show you some information later, a couple of slides, part of that reason is that in combination, I think we've got over 220 exploration and mining leases. And so, as you can imagine, each one of those has got a heritage agreement or access agreement. So there's an enormous amount of due diligence that had to be undertaken. And of course, you need independent expert reports and accounting. So it's just taken a lot of time. But
sorry to interrupt you, Luke. That's the Karora Resources ground and your ground.
And our ground together, yeah.
Together. So how did that come together? I know it's Kali Metals, it's a separate one, but talk to me like I'm a 5-year-old. Does Karora was it a script basis or what? How did that work?
And so Karora's ground, of course, because it's still actively exploring and producing gold, the rights that Karora have put into Kali Metals or will at IPO are the mineral rights over lithium and associated metals across their gold ground to the south of Kalgoorlie. Whereas Kalamazoo is putting in its entire lithium exploration leases on the east coast and up in the Pilbara into Kali Metals. And so I guess then part of the other decision that we had to make was after we decided to IPO was, well, how do we kind of value that? You're talking about 3,800 square kilometres. And because Kalamazoo's ground was a lot larger than Karora's, we came to this decision as a valuation that Kalamazoo would have 55% of Kali at IPO or pre-IPO, and Karora would have 45%. Now, of course, that has changed as we've raised some seed capital, and obviously we're raising further capital at IPO. So once all that's complete, and I'll go into a bit more detail later, Kalamazoo will have about 28% and Karora about 20%. But the interesting thing is what we're also doing at IPO, Kerry, is that Kalamazoo is distributing 25% of its shareholding directly to its shareholders as what they call an in-specie distribution, and also giving a priority entitlement to our shareholders that if they wanted to buy some more shares in the IPO, they could. So I guess that's the background to what we've done. And then we had to go through the process of marketing and raising the money. So what we did was we appointed 2 lead managers, brokers, to do this. We call them joint lead managers or JLMs. And that was Bell Potter and Canaccord. And we also appointed a corporate advisory firm, being Grant Samuel, to advise us through this. So we put all this together, put a prospectus together, Kerry, and can I tell you, I'm never going to do this again. 387 pages.
Just put that sideways, Luke. Oh my goodness me.
So there's reports and all the legals, etc. Incredibly complicated. A lot of hard work. Our team and obviously Karora's team and lawyers, etc., the JLMs have done a fantastic job putting it together, but it's a serious amount of work. So we put all that together. We were looking to initially to list in, I think it was July, then August. It's now not going to happen until the 5th of Jan, but we did open up the IPO, went out to the market looking to raise $12 to $15 million. And that was, I think it was on the 17th of November. And we're going to be open for 3 or 4 weeks. We closed it literally within hours, and it was heavily oversubscribed. So we've raised we've raised $15 million, and the interest has been very strong. So we're extremely pleased. So now we'll look to list come the 5th of January next year.
Why is there so much interest in this particular ground? Now, you said 220 tenements, and it's a big lot of ground. I know it's lithium, and everyone's talking about lithium at the moment. Yeah. But I want to know, we all know TG Metals and Azure, they've had a great run, but what do you think is the excitement around Kali Metals?
First of all, this is probably the largest lithium exploration package in Australia in one company.
Oh, wow. Okay.
3,800 square kilometres. And it's in 3 distinct areas. It's up in the Pilbara. And this was originally, the Kalamazoo ground, but it's now in Kali, and of which we're in joint venture with SQM. It's about 45 kilometres to the east of Pilbara Minerals, very large mine, and about another 10 kilometres further away, 15 is a Wodgina Mineral Resources project. But also you've got Wildcats, Tabba, which is, again, about 40 k's away. So it's in the right area. Okay. And we think that's very prospective. Then we've got our ground, which we call the Higginsville ground, which is between Kalgoorlie and Kambalda. and that's pretty much the Karora ground, which has been put into it. And I'll show you a couple of maps in a moment if you like, Kerry.
Yeah,
but it's surrounded by lithium deposits and also 2 lithium mines. So it's extremely well located. It's what I think it was David Flanagan from Delta originally called, it's the corridor of power. And this is the central area. It's very hot. It's got Bald Hill, which was recently acquired by Mineral Resources on one board. You've got Mount Marion on the other, Liontown's project, Baldonia, and it's great ground. And then, of course, our ground, which is more greenfields over on the east coast, which we call the Lachlan or the Southern Lachlan Fold Belt. It's pretty much from a place called Tallangatta all the way up to Jingellic, which is just to the east of Albury. And why we like this ground is that very much a greenfields first mover advantage, but it's got a lot of historical tin and tantalum in that area, which is always a good pathfinder for lithium. And so we've done some early work there, as have some other companies to the south of us. And we think it's highly prospective. And if we are successful on that, it opens up a whole new region for lithium exploration that really has been untouched so far. So we think we've got the right ground. In addition, we've put together a fantastic board and also management team, headed up by Graham Sloan, who was previously the managing director of Karora. Graham, under Graham's guidance, Karora went from a small explorer, I think probably 3 or 4 years ago, to now a market cap of over $1 billion on the TSX.
Wow.
It's a significant company producing about 170,000 ounces. Graham's got very extensive experience and very well known. Paul Adams, one of Kalamazoo's directors, Paul's on the board of Karora. John Leddy, who's a very senior M&A lawyer out of Canada, part of Karora. He's also on the board. And who joined us as our independent non-exec director is Simon Coyle. Simon, until a couple of months ago, was general manager for Pilbara Minerals at Pilgangoora. So extremely experienced in lithium. Has now taken a senior role or an MD role of a vanadium company. So Simon adds great value. And then who's recently joined us, we made this announcement just a couple of weeks ago, is Stuart Peterson. And Stuart was previously general manager of exploration for Global Lithium. And so Stuart's joined us at this point in time as a consultant for advisor for geology, technical advisor. And Stuart's got extremely deep experience, including at Archer for Global Lithium up in the Pilbara, but also Manna, which is Global Lithium's big lithium deposit just to the north of us. So we put a really good team together. I'm probably the weak link. I'm the non-exec chairman, but
I don't think so.
Someone's got to bring in.
Does take vision to be able to do this, and especially to put a 300 and however many pages prospectus together. Question: SQM, where did they? Because they got involved in coming in on board with Kalamazoo. Did you get them involved in this strategy early on, or do they sit off to one side and they're just spending the money on exploration and they know what are the, if any, changes there?
They're very supportive. And so, they consented to their JV continuing in Kali Metals. Very supportive. We've got a great relationship with them. And, if we were to find something up in the Pilbara, they'd be the perfect partners for us to look and develop that. So we're looking to advance that relationship as we continue. And as I said, they've been very good supporters, and we continue to work very closely with them.
But they haven't got a JV with you across all the because you said 220 tenements. That's a big package. They've only got on certain ones. Is that right?
At this point in time, that's what we've limited to that. How that progresses in the future, we'll just wait and see, Kerry. But,
okay. All right. So just give us the key dates. And I think one of the things I wanted to go over with you today is, for those who are Kalamazoo shareholders out there, can you just go through what it is? Because sometimes people get busy and they don't pay enough attention, if you like. So I wanted to make it very clear in today's conversation, some key dates and what, if anything, current shareholders should be doing, or how do people get involved if they're not a current shareholder? Lot to unpack there, but I just want to make it very easy for people.
Yeah, well, there's 2 levels of which Kalamazoo shareholders can participate, Kerry. The first one is what we call an in-specie distribution. Mm-hmm. So as you can imagine, Kalamazoo for vending in or Kali Metals and our assets, Kalamazoo is receiving 25 or 29% of approximately 29% of the shares in Kali Metals. And so we're now distributing of that 29%, 25% directly to our shareholders. And what that means is for every 17.64 shares that you own in Kalamazoo, you'll get one free share in
Kali.
And so in effect, what that means that, as an example, if you today purchase $12,000 worth of shares in Kalamazoo, that'd be 100,000 shares. For that, you'd receive 5,668 shares, free shares in Kali, which would be worth $1,417, which would, in effect, would be a 12% dividend. So that's if you had shares today, if you bought shares in regard to in Kalamazoo for an in-specie distribution. So in effect, we're giving shareholders an immediate dividend or distribution for nothing.
Why? That's me being mean to all you lovely shareholders out there going, why would you give them something for nothing?
Because we like to support our shareholders. They've supported us by investing in Kalamazoo, and we want to make sure that they are rewarded when we can. And so we believe that it's a wonderful opportunity to actually give something back to our shareholders.
Is there a cut-off date for people to become Kalamazoo shareholders and get that in-specie distribution?
So the record date for that is, just to be clear, of the in-specie record date is the 22nd of December.
Okay, so got a little bit Christmas present, ladies and gentlemen. Think about that for all your friends out there. Not financial advice.
But what I suggest, Kerry, is that anyone who's interested should go to our website, download the prospectus, and get the full details, because that's the only way to do it.
Read those 387 pages. I bet most of you don't.
That's the way the ASX and ASIC works. So
yeah, absolutely. And
there is no shortcut to this.
There aren't shortcuts. And I do say to everybody all the time, do your own research. And if you're not sure about something, get that prospectus and read it. Because, look, nothing's for certain, is it, Luke?
No, absolutely.
This prospective ground. But you've also got a couple of slides I wanted you to bring up, if you wouldn't mind, because I want to just make sure we understand, because there's a lot going on here, because we've still got Kalamazoo, which has got the gold, but the focus at the moment is Kali Metals. How do you split your time across both?
Before I get to that, Kerry, I'll just finish off on what's in it for Kalamazoo shareholders.
I beg your pardon. Yep.
There's also what we call a priority entitlement, and that is if you're an existing Kalamazoo shareholder today, you can actually apply for additional shares in Kali under what we call a $2 million priority entitlement for shareholders. And why that's important is, as you would have heard before, when we actually opened up the IPO, it closed very quickly. So there really wasn't an opportunity for retail shareholders to actually invest. Yeah. But what we've managed to carve out, I guess, or keep for the benefit of our shareholders, is the opportunity to directly invest. So if any existing Kalamazoo shareholder, and you have to be an existing Kalamazoo shareholder today, if you wanted to actually buy some shares in the IPO to a minimum of $2,000, you could. There's no upside as to how much you could actually invest or ask for, but there is a limit of $2 million. So if a lot of people actually apply, we'll do what they call a scale back. So that you won't get your full entitlement, but there is that opportunity. Now, how you can do that is that everyone would have received, or a shareholder, providing your details are right, they would have received a postcard like this. Right? Okay. So a lot of people have seen this, and that gives you details on actually how to apply. Or if you didn't get one because some people they don't have the right address, or they don't update the register, which we all do at times. Mm-hmm. If you haven't done that, if you go to our website and look at our ASX announcement on the 21st of November this year, it gives you the details, again, a link, how to go and apply for those shares. But however, Kerry, that closes next Monday, the 4th of December at 2 p.m. Western time, West Australian time. So if anyone wants to do that, they've actually got to move pretty quickly. Now, people are already applying, so we know it's actually working very well. But if anyone wanted to literally top up and couldn't participate in the retail offering, we certainly would like them to actually apply.
Okay, and that's got to be by next Monday, and we're already coming up to the middle of the week. So get your skates on, ladies and gentlemen. I'll put a link in below as well, make it a little bit easier for people. But
okay,
I'll just do that until the 4th of December. Keep that link there for people to make it easy. So click on the link below, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Sorry to interrupt you there. I forgot it was 2 parts. So the first part is.
Why don't I do this, Kerry? Why don't I just bring up some details in regard to what we're actually doing? So
Okay,
you can see that here? Yep. So perhaps this is just some information as well. You can see on this map on the right-hand side, just to put this into perspective, on the upper right, those 3 areas that I was talking about where the assets for Kali Metals is. We've got up in the Pilbara, which is our Doms Hill and Marble Bar projects, as I mentioned, there in JV with SQM. Then down to the south of Kalgoorlie, we've got the Higginsville or the Karora ground, which has gone in. And then on the east coast, you've got what we call Jinjallik and Tallangatta, which is that Greenfields projects. So that's where the location is. As I mentioned before, we've combined both Karora and Kalamazoo's ground. It's a very extensive package, 3,854 square kilometres in well-known hard rock lithium regions. Obviously up in the Pilbara, where you've got Pilbara, Wodgina, now Tabba Tabba, Azores ground as well, but also down south, which is surrounded by mines. And I'll show you some maps of that and these various projects. It was heavily oversubscribed. We've raised $15 million, and we are due to start trading on the 5th of January. And as we discussed just previously, Kerry, all Kalamazoo shareholders will receive an initial 25% in specie distribution, which is at 1 Kali share for every 17.64 Kalamazoo shares they hold, and this IPO priority entitlement. Got a good board, and mentioned before, Stuart Peterson has joined us as a technical advisor for geology. And
okay,
here are some dates which I think will add value for everyone. You can see where the priority offer closes. Kalamazoo, we've got our AGM this Wednesday, and Kelly's as well in Perth. But then also, as part of this IPO and what we call a demerger, which is basically taking these assets out of Kalamazoo and putting them into Kali, we're required to get shareholder approval at a general meeting. And that's on the 18th of December in Perth. And so we have to go through that process. Then you've got those effective dates for in-specie distribution, in-specie record dates, when shares get sent to people, and then the settlement, which I mentioned, is on the 5th of Jan. And then if you look at the key parameters of what Kali would look like, there are 25-cent shares. We will have raised $15 million. There'll be 144 million shares on issue, and at 25 cents, the shares will be it'll have a market cap of about $36 million with an enterprise value of $21 million. So that's kind of what it looks like. And so, there's been a lot of work in this, and if anyone needs to go through, again, as I mentioned, that ASX announcement on 21st of November will provide more details.
Yeah, so all right, let's have a look at each, because if we could break down each of the projects, I think that's pretty interesting for people as well.
Yeah, I think so. So this map, Kerry, just to put this in perspective. So you've got Kalgoorlie just up here, just to the north. You've got Kambalda just to the south, and you've got Norseman as well. Mount Marion, which is Mineral Resources, lithium mine up here, just to the top.
Yep.
You've got Bald Hill, which Mineral Resources acquired on the 1st of November. That's an operating mine there as well. Just up here, you've got Global Lithium's Manna project. And then you've got all these other lithium projects. You've got Essential Metals, their Pioneer Dome project here, which Mineral Resources has taken is in JV with. Then you've got Boldania, which is Liontown. That's where Albemarle came in and tried to acquire that project. I think it was $5 or $6 billion. And Hancock, Jenna Reinhardt, Hancock's came in and put
the bid.
Yeah, I've got to be careful what I say here. Yes, that proceeding. And then you've got other projects here, and then you've got all the way down the south here. There's a company called Pontero that Mineral Resources acquired their lithium rights down to the south here. I think just a couple of weeks ago for $60 million.
Wow.
So this here is about 1,600 square kilometres of ground. Our first project where we'll start drilling first is this area up here called Spargoville. Very, very prospective. And we have identified lithium there, which is referred to in the into that prospectus, which we've had verified by assays. But because this is all a gold area, Kerry, there's been very, very little lithium work done because it's primarily gold and nickel. But there's been an enormous amount of historical work and drill work that has been undertaken here. But what's interesting is that very little, as I said, was assayed. But if you look at the area that we've got here, we have historical drill database where more than 600 pegmatites of more than 10 metres in length down hole have yet to be analysed for lithium. So this is a very substantial opportunity for us because it's a known lithium area. It's got pegmatites, significant pegmatites there. And we are, very hopeful that this will be a very prospective area in what is the hottest lithium ground in the country. And this is a consolidation of that ground and is very central to everything that's happening in this area. So not only do we are believers in its prospectivity, we think it has enormous just strategic value as well.
That's an awful lot of blocks that you've got there as well, just looking at it. Question, with a lot of this lithium coming onto, I kind of want to ask you, is there demand? Is the demand going to continue to go up? Do you think that this is seems to me that there's some, I'm trying to make it into my brain as to, are there too many lithium mines out there, or do we just not have enough at the moment and people are just really chomping at the bit to get more supply?
Yeah, there's certainly there is a lot of lithium around, Kerry, but it's got to be where there are processing plants. That's the value of it.
Yeah.
But more importantly, as we've seen with Liontown and other projects, it's costing, and even Mount Holland, which is Wesfarmers SQM JV, it's costing significantly more to build these processing plants and to get them into production. So, yes, there is a lot of lithium, but it's not as easy to actually, get a commercial return. So, we think there's significant opportunity. There was a statistic out, I think 12 months ago, I can't remember who put it out, but it was something like we need 72 new lithium major projects globally to meet the expected demand over the next 10 years. So, that's a very large number of projects. So, there is a lot of lithium around, but you've got to have it it's got to be economic, it's got to be of scale, it's got to be near existing projects to actually make it work. And so, we know we're in the right area. We've got some incredible neighbours near us. As you can see from Mount Marion, Bald Hill, Pioneer Dome, etc. There is value in this area, and we have now through Karora's ground. This is now the most significant lithium land holding in this region, and it's central.
Are you doing anything at the moment, Luke, in terms of, or are you waiting until the IPO is done, dusted, and then you'll get on the ground? Because you just said you've raised 15, there will be 15 million in the till, or a little bit around that amount. What's your next steps?
Look, we have been doing some groundwork. Of course, we're not in a position where we can release these results because of the prospectus is out and we put our supplementary out. But we're certainly doing groundwork, and we are looking to be drilling as soon as the IPO is complete and we can get on ground, and that's always subject to permitting and regulatory requirements. But we're very keen. Look, even up in the Pilbara, which I'll talk about in a moment. Look, we've just completed a drill program there a couple of months ago. So work is continuing on there and with SQM. So that's still going very well. So look, we will hit the ground running, Kerry.
All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time, so let's get on to the other two projects within Kali Metals.
Yeah, the next one's in the Pilbara, which you're probably a little bit more familiar with. I think with Kalamazoo, we've spoken about this before. We've got our Doms Hill project here, which SQM like the look of. They thought there's potentially for that to be like a geological analogue, potentially to Pilgrim. You can see, here on the mags. Then you've got Wodgina here. Interestingly, the Wildcat's Tabba Tabba project, and Wildcat now has got a market cap, I think, of 800 or 900 million. It's in this area here.
Oh, wow.
About there. So again, it's very well located. And Kalamazoo has got our Marble Bar ground here, and also the Doms Hill ground. And those two are in partnership with SQM. And then we've got another tenement in here, which we call Pear Creek, which is not with SQM at this particular time, but we need to do some more work on there. We recently completed a drill program there with SQM. We're waiting on results. It was more of an air core. I think it's about, I'm trying to think, I think about 12,000 meter air core program, but it's more of like a geological, more of a geochem program than drilling. We're just trying to go to do the top 30 or 40 meters. Those results will come out after the IPO. And then, Kerry, we're just talking previously just about the Lachlan Fold Belt. This is the ground we have over on the east coast. So you've got Albury. So if I look on this map here, Albury is just here, and that's the border, pretty much which is the river, the Murray. Interesting. This is the up in the highlands. There's a company called Dart Mining. That's their ground in the blue. They've actually had some nice lithium hits there and spodumene drill programs. SQM actually have entered into a JV with them. So again, that's good validation for us that we're in the right area. But we like the ground further to the north, which is more in the lowlands, which we think might be easier to access. And this is what we call our Talangata project. This is Jingellic. It's about 2,000 square kilometres. Mentioned before, there's a lot of tin and tungsten historical mining there. So, we're very, very enthused by this ground, and we need to do some work on it. But we think if we do get some success, it'll open up this whole area as a potential lithium ground. So they're the three projects. So I guess then, just to summarise it, Kerry, obviously Kalamazoo's a gold company, and as we've discussed a couple of times before, we've got our major project over in the Ashburton, which is 1.4 million ounces, and then obviously Victoria, which we're searching for gold. But then I guess over the last 12 months, a lot of our focus has been on getting Kali Metals up and running, and I think our team has done a great job to get to this stage, and we're very much looking forward to the next month to see Kali go out on its own.
I think it's great, and you've done a lot of work. We haven't even really covered the gold assets within Kalamazoo, but I wanted the focus to be on Kali Metals today, mainly because of there's that tight time frame for people if they're not totally aware of what they should or shouldn't be doing. If you're a shareholder, and if you're not quite sure, reach out to Kalamazoo. I'm sure they can help you out, or click on the link and make sure that you understand fully what's going on. But for you, Luke, you've got a team that will be on Kali Metals, but will your focus then be more strongly on Kalamazoo and the gold assets? Just try to work out how you balance.
Yeah. So at this point in time, I'm still executive chairman of Kalamazoo. I'm non-exec chairman of Karora. I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out over the next 6 or 12 months, Kerry, as to can I divide my time amongst both of them, or maybe focus on one rather than the other? But we'll just see how that plays out. Fortunately, we've put a very strong board together at Kali, so they'll do extremely well. And obviously Kalamazoo, which is a key focus for us, and that our focus on the gold is very strong over the next 6 or 12 months.
Yeah, and that gold price keeps doing what it should be doing, just over 2,000. So happy days there. Just wanted to do a final question for you, which is when Kali does list and the SQ and all that stuff, again, going back to Kalamazoo, you said right at the beginning that you felt that in splitting these, it was in the best interest of shareholders.
Yeah.
if you could just sum up for us as we finish up why you because we're really talking about Kali, the future for Kali. If you can just sum it up and the rationale behind this move.
Yeah, absolutely, Kev. So we believe that the Kali Metals required its own team, its own capital base, because up until now, Kalamazoo has basically been funding Kali's operations, even though SQM has been sole funding our drilling up north. But Kali required its own capital base and working capital. So the best way to do that was to do it with a new IPO. And by being able to combine that with Karora's excellent ground, we certainly believe we've got the unrivaled exploration tenure in this country for lithium. And I think the results of the IPO and the capital raise probably confirms that. A lot of other people believe that's the case as well. So now by putting a team together, having the capital, Kali can go and become its own entity, be solely focused on lithium, and it enables Kalamazoo then to go back to its grassroots, which is gold, which is in the Ashburton and Victoria. So that's our key aim. But again, I think as we've said from the very start, in doing this, we want to bring our Kalamazoo shareholders along with us, and that's why we've taken this decision to actually distribute some of the Kali shares to them. But also then going forward, there's an opportunity potentially for Kalamazoo shares to participate in that priority entitlement. But if anyone wants to do it, Kerry, they've got to do it before next Monday.
All righty, I better get this onto our platform ASAP. Luke Reinehr, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. And one of the things I really like is with Luke, he's always thinking about his shareholders and how he can give added value. And as he said just before, for one share in Kalamazoo, you are entitled to that in-specie distribution of 17.64 shares in the new entity, which is called...
I know. Just to be clear, Kerry, it's round the other way.
Oh, it's round the other way. Sorry.
Yep. For every 17.64 shares...
Kalamazoo shares for one share.
In Kali.
That could have been very dangerous, couldn't it, Luke? Whoa.
Very dangerous. Probably more so for you than me.
Way more. So 17.64 Kalamazoo shares, one share in Kali Metals.
That's correct.
Final question. What's the ASX code going to be?
KM1.
KM1, ladies and gentlemen.
Kali Metals 1. Yep.
Yeah. Kali Metals 1, listing on the 5th of January after Christmas. He's going to have a very, very busy Christmas. We look forward to having a chat with you again once it's all up and running. But for now, thanks for joining me on Making Money Matter.
Fantastic, Kerry. See you soon.